make that motion?
Someone needs to make a motion to designate you as the presiding while the mayor's not here. If you want to go ahead and open the meeting, or if you want to wait for him to come.
Well, Joe sent me a text and said if I wanted to open up the meeting, go ahead and open it up.
Okay? So someone needs to make a motion to allow him to do that.
Bob, Jamie, Andy, Bueller.
I'd like to make a motion to allow Mayor Pro Tem Vandenberg to open today's PRG joint council meeting and to preside over the meeting.
Hey, Andy?
Yes.
I'd like to make a request. Can anybody improve the audio, please?
We can sit a little closer. Let's see if I can move down here a little bit. Hey.
Okay, and then I need PRG to open up their portion of the meeting. Nobody took a vote.
Okay, I see. We can hear Kim talk on the screen and then hear. Okay.
I think if everyone can put on mute unless they're speaking would help.
Yeah. Yes, and I'll reduce the volume here, and then if you can reduce the volume from your okay. If you can reduce the volume from your audio, however you're listening to the meeting, so that what you are hearing isn't coming back into your mic, that will help too. All right. Did you all hear the motion?
Why don't you just repeat it, just to be safe?
Yeah, just.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to allow Mayor Pro Tem Vandenberg to open and preside over today's joint council and PRG meeting.
So the council needs to say if they are for or against that, Jamie and Bob.
I'm with Jamie, you guys need to say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was on mute.
Okay.
Bob, are you okay? Are you okay with Mayor Pro Tem presiding over the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, we got two Bobs.
Oh yes,
So
we have two Bobs.
We need to.
I'm sorry.
We need to distinguish between the two Bobs.
Mm-hmm. Bob number yeah, PRG.
Okay, now PRG needs to open up their portion of the meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to determine that we do have a quorum between myself, Christina, Bob, and would like to open the joint council PRG meeting here at 10:05. Bob, can you second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And
Alright.
Kim, anybody
Yeah.
hear me?
Oh, is that you, Joe? Okay, Joe's here.
Yeah,
You can go.
Yeah, I'm in a route right now, but I got on the phone and I'll be there in about 5.
Alright, Joe, you want to call us to order?
You go ahead and I'll just invite you when I'm up there.
Okay. So I'd like to call to order the Village Council and Greenway Board Special Joint Meeting on July 11th, 2020 at 10:05 a.m. I show that we have a full board with Mayor Leo on the phone, Bob Marlees and Jamie Lyon participating remotely, and Andy Wortman in the office, and I am also participating remotely. And we need to adopt our agenda. Do we have any changes on our end?
None of my end.
Alright. So I need a motion to adopt the agenda as,
Motion to
presented.
allow remote participation. Yeah. Make a motion to allow remote participation for those.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion to allow remote participation for Kim, Bob, Joe, and Jamie.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'm not voting, so I can't vote.
Aye.
Okay. It passes. All right, do we have any changes to our agenda?
No changes on my end.
Okay,
No.
all right, so I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Somebody. You
All
can-
in favor?
Aye.
Who
Aye.
said that? Who made the motion?
Agenda.
Who did?
Who did?
Joe did. Okay.
And should we do one for our board as well to adopt the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Bob, if you could go ahead.
Go ahead, you were asking me? I'm
No.
sorry.
We have two Bobs on the line, so we'll need to distinguish between Councilman
okay.
Markleese
Bob
and
Camp, sorry.
Bob Newman.
Thank
What do
you.
you need to do, John? Make a motion that we approve the past agenda or this agenda?
Correct.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the agenda for June the 11th as written.
All right, any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the agenda passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up. Number 3.
Should we drive this meeting or is someone from council gonna drive?
If you wanna drive it, John, you go ahead.
Sure, and we'll move on to the item of action number 3, which is the PRG Park and Greenway Master Plan update and feedback. First of all, on behalf of the Parks and Greenways Board, thank you to council for making the time. I know it's been tough over the last couple of months with you guys even getting your own meetings in, but to be able to participate with you folks as we have some new members of the council that we, number one, would like to welcome. But it's important as we do have new folks that come into play that we as an advisory committee really have a good understanding of some of the general directions and things that council does want us to kind of investigate and move forward with different initiatives and so forth, to gain a better understanding of what the council's priorities are in terms of different areas that the Parks and Greenways Board gets involved. For the new council members, you know, primarily that has to do with the Greenways and Marvin Eater Park. So we welcome the time that we have to spend with you guys, and to kind of jump right into it with the Parks and Greenway Master Plan. I know that we had the presentation in our last meeting of the draft. We made some recommended changes to it, my understanding is that council then had that draft with some of those corrections presented to them. And really just wanted to kind of start off with an opportunity to kind of get some feedback from you folks directly on what your impressions were of that master plan update. And certainly for the new council members, Kim, you know, we worked very closely with you as our liaison for many years. But also want to get an understanding of some of the priorities of Bob Markleese and Jamie Vine as they come online as well. Bob or Christina, anything you'd like to add to that?
John, I'm good.
And Christina, you might be on mute.
There you go.
Yeah, I was trying to undo that.
Okay. Council, if you could just start by, any of your impressions of the master plan as it was presented to you folks, and we can kind of start from there.
Well, I'll start by saying that I sat in on the first meeting that you folks had was a few days ago. And as I was going through it, I thought it was very well done. I also sit on the planning board. They're working on a land use plan, and they exhibited the same amount of effort that you folks did. In fact, I was quite impressed by the graphics, and I thought, Tim, was it Tim Johnson, I guess, that spoke with us. He was part and parcel working with you folks. So I thought it was well put together. I thought it was well thought out. It was a good plan, what I saw.
Thank you for that feedback.
John, this is Jamie. I echo Bob's sentiments on this, and really look forward to just kind of taking it from where we're at and finding ways that we can start to implement some of this. I think that's where we kind of left off with some of our concerns or some of our challenges that we face moving forward is really just because you guys put together a great plan. I think it's very well thought out. You identified what we can do short term, mid term, and long term. And now it's just really for us to come together and work kind of both ends together to see where we can start to implement some of this stuff. And the biggest challenge, obviously, is the funding part of it. We can have all the great ideas in the world, but it's just really trying to come up with it. And when you start looking at some of the dollars out there, they're pretty steep. However, learning more of the ways we can do it through bonding, through bonds, and other creative ways to do it, I'm looking forward to that challenge, and so we start pushing some of these things forward.
Yeah, and one important thing I think we should note here is that one of the things is that it's really presented as a concept plan, and I think when we originally started out with, the amount of miles and trails, it came out to almost 26 miles. I think what we've done a better job here in this master plan update than perhaps the previous one is to lay out individual segments of what can potentially happen. I don't think anybody really has the intent or understanding that everything you see on that concept plan is going to come to being, whether it be the next 2 years, 5 years, maybe 50 years, A lot of it is going to depend on interaction with residents. As you mentioned, availability of funds. Some of those trails are much more costly, for example, if they're in a DOT of right-of-way, than if they're in other areas that might be land donated by developers, things of that nature. So I think it's important for everyone to realize, including the residents as well, as the master plan has been kind of distributed via email for folks to take a look at. I have gotten feedback both from folks within my own subdivision and other folks. Some expressed concerns about one area or the other. But one of the things that we've tried to do as a board is to look at this as a larger plan over a long period of time. It's not reliant on anyone developing land or a resident giving an easement. It's more of a vision that we tried to put some ability to create priorities for what we want to prioritize first, let's say in the next year or two, and then what perhaps in the next 5 years. And that might only be maybe, 4 or 5 segments out of the 20 different segments we have listed. But I think that's important to realize that it's a working plan. And it's not necessarily that we even want to develop it all, because then we have the cost to maintain it all as well. So those are all the things that come into play. Given the different types of trails, natural versus paved versus in-state DOTs, things of that.
John,
when did you start working on the update? How long did it take you from where it was to where we are now? And what drove it? Because it was obviously done before the survey. What's interesting is that the survey that basically was sent out last fall almost mirrors what sort of you were putting together. But when did you start this update?
Really, it probably came out of, I would consider it kind of more it started when a couple of years ago, we were asked to put together a capital expense plan over the next 5 to 10 years. And in doing that, we realized that, you know, we can't just look at the whole potential scope of trail system as one thing and put a price tag on it. That we had to make it into smaller bites, you know, that we could handle both financially and you know, with a focus to in areas that made sense to prioritize and not. So when we had that request from council, you know, might have been 2 or 3 years ago, might have been even longer than that. I've been on the board many years.
Yeah.
When we started to kind of get those numbers together, that's when we decided that really it started to make sense to redo the broader master plan for parks as well. And you know, the talk even a year and a half ago before the survey and stuff was to update the land use plan for the whole village. And once they started to do that, then it made more sense, you know, looking at it from just a capital expense to kind of revamp our Parks and Greenways master plan to go along in line. And I don't want to monopolize the discussion, so Bob or Christina, anything you folks want to add? Or Andy for that sake, because, you know, up until a week ago, Andy was a very important part of it.
Hey, John, just real quick, this is Jamie. How much time did you guys dedicate when you kind of boiled it all down? And there were 3 sections. There were really the first section is the immediate, what we could focus on from an immediate standpoint, kind of that middle ground. Then you start looking at the longer term. Did you spend, how much extra time did you spend in scrubbing what went from that first group that is realistic that we can do, as opposed to the other 2? Because I think that's the critical piece too. Do you feel good about what we've laid out as far as the short-term pieces that we could accomplish?
Yeah, I think we did do a good job in that. You know, probably the most important first step of the process when you're looking at any of these sections is, do you have the access? And by access, I mean, you know, has a proposed subdivision already, you know, worked with the planning board or things like that, where they're laying out, you know, the potential for one of these sections that they're either donating land or potentially, you know, doing the improvements themselves. In other cases, it comes to going to individual landowners. It's not like we're confiscating anybody's land or anything. The way that this has been developed to date is fully in partnership with our residents, and you know, certain areas you may need to get easements for and things like that. So how you would actually gain access to where you're putting the trail is one of the most critical things. How it interconnects to already developed areas is another important thing, because we don't necessarily want to be doing sections that just stand alone off on their own in the middle of nowhere. One of the things as we work through this process we're trying to gain is better connectivity through the village altogether.
Well, kudos to your team, and I know to Tim and all involved in putting this together, because I thought, you can tell there was a lot of work put into it, and kudos to your team of scrubbing it and taking the time to you know, present it the way you presented, because you made it easy for us. I know there was some minor things that we wanted to have added to it, but kudos to your team and the entire group that had part in this.
Yeah, and I think one important part, because I know even when we looked at the draft, you can very easily get sticker shock when you look at the full table and if everything were to be developed. First of all, we've worked with Tim and that team to where our understanding is that those are what they call conservative estimates, with an understanding that, things are developed over time, number one. But again, I want to reiterate the point specifically that, it's not even necessarily the intention that we develop all of these areas. They're areas that we've cited as natural areas to provide connectivity, that we may be able to gain access, the price overall is something that we're going to manage in small chunks as we have the ability to do.
Hey, John, Joe Polino, I actually joined the meeting here at the village about 5-10 minutes ago. We had some, I just wanted to chime in, we had some ideas I think that were flown at our meeting, our last meeting, that good ideas about funding. It is a big number overall, but we talked about everything from grants and applications that timing is key to that, I think, but also like 501(c)(3)s and donations. And as I left, I thought about it more. Have we, or has the your group considered going to individual HOAs? Because as you know best, when developments are made, a lot of this wasn't thought out ahead of time, but now it is. So when a developer comes in and builds a community of homes, he incorporates what we want as far as accessibility, greenways and stuff. Have we thought about going back to the HOAs? Because I think, Jamie, you'll remember a time when we had road issues in our own community of Firethorn, and part of the community was South Carolina, Lancaster. I remember going to Lancaster County, asking them to take care of their roads. They basically said, get in line. I said, no, you don't understand. We want to participate in getting these roads down for South Carolina as an HOA. And what that did is that put us at the top of the list, and we got South Carolina roads done within 6 months, if you remember that, Jamie. But it's another alternative or a mechanism for funding that I don't know if we've even kind of approached in an effort to go to the HOAs, because they have budgets. They need to spend their budgets. They can't, hold on to too much money if they're not spending it properly. And something like this, the connectivity, we may find that they want to share 40-50% or something like that, and they got to get approval. But going forward, I think those neighborhoods that were built that didn't incorporate these pathways, I think is another funding mechanism we should consider.
Yeah, I think there certainly might be opportunities for that. I think part of this overall, and you folks on the council know the struggle within local government sometimes is always getting information and communications out to folks and making them aware of things. So certainly I think that is an option that we can leverage in the future. I think also you mentioned the grants and things like that, and in the past we have applied for some different grants that were available. Normally, because of the detailed processes involved for grants, that was best done at a PRG level and more relying upon us working with staff to do some of those things. And oftentimes when you're looking at the grants, they also look at things like that, where it's not where you're just looking for the grant, it's how much money are you willing to put into it as well. They want to know what the municipality is investing, what type of interconnectivity that they're going for. Those are all things that can affect you, being able to get grants and stuff like that. One of the things that I would mention, is that over the years, one of the challenges we have too is, residents may see this just off an email and think, oh goodness, they're going to come through and pave a path through my front yard or one thing or another. And we've had issues a number of years ago in terms of council and PRG getting specific requests to, remove just this one house or just this one section or things like that. Our vision over the years has been that, you know, we're not trying to build the community just for right now. We're building it for 10, 20, 50 years from now. And I think it's important as we speak to our residents that, you know, we understand this is a concept map, that we partner with them more than anything and just make sure that people are aware of how this process will go and types of feedback, input, and things like easements, all of those things that we'll be relying on the residents and public to provide for.
And I think that's a really good point. Rohit's going to be sending out an FAQ to the community about the master plan and, you know, what it's all about. So I think those types of things, Rohit, like the partnership, that kind of stuff would be nice to add to that FAQ, to send out so that, you know, the residents do know that we're, you know, we want to partner with them, that kind of stuff. May want to send what you're going to send out, Rohit, maybe to John before you send it out and see if he's got any, you know, additional suggestions beforehand. John, if you would look at that, that would probably be helpful, and then we can get that out to the residents, because again, we're really trying to get more information out to the community about what's going on and what we're doing. And I think that FAQ and then adding a couple extra things with John's direction would probably be key.
Yeah, I think it's very important too, because there are, you know, legitimate concerns that many residents do have. I live in Providence Estates, and one of my neighbors, and there's actually a few of them that have the same concern. You know, one of the things in the plan is for, you know, basically a sidewalk along Waxhaw Marvin Road in front of Providence Estates up in the state DOT right away. And for many that may know that area, our residents are fixing fences and dealing with cars crashing through. You just have a car overturn and burn, you know, because it's a very dangerous stretch of road. So, you know, those folks would have legitimate concerns for people's safety walking along that stretch of Waxhaw Marvin. So while we have it on the concept map, that's probably one of our lower priorities. But just to help to make sure residents know and understand that this is all a process. These things aren't necessarily written in stone. They're really there to help us to understand what would be involved and help to set priorities and what makes sense and what to move forward with, both from a financial and you know, conceptual standpoint.
And if I can add, out of the council meeting, one of the, one of the good ideas the Councilman Monken basically had suggested that we have some sort of a town hall in the fall. I think that to further even what Tim was saying was that basically we can put together a maybe a joint meeting where a lot of people love visual, and you know, to have it just with the council, you know, it'd be rather fun to have you folks there too, either all or maybe yourself or a couple, that absolutely people can see, wow, okay, this is a plan for the future. And I know a lot of residents, especially the some that we interviewed for the planning board, you know, that they've been here as Marvin citizens for a real long time. They love the heritage. They love to go generational as far as raising their family here. That's how precious it is to them. And when I was talking to this one particular planning candidate, they were saying, well, I would love to see the interconnection of trails and plans, and the other person's even saying that when they lived in Switzerland, the Swiss village he lived in, one of the main things that he loved about living there was the interconnecting trails through even people's property, believe it or not. But he said a lot of people love to hike through these Swiss villages in the very greenways and trails we're talking about, like we're planning. So it'd be fun to have you there as part of the town hall too, to come and show the residents that. Just a suggestion.
Yeah. And you know, I know we've got 3 or 4 other items, to get to on the agenda. Bob, Christina, anything you'd like to add on the PRG of, Greenway Master Plan update?
No, you covered it, and I think Bob had a good idea. I think being part of the town hall meeting would be advantageous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyone else? All right. Moving on to.
Good job, and I agree with Bob that we ought to be part of that town hall.
Yeah. All right. And one thing, you know, folks as well, right, as you can tell, just myself, Christina, and Bob, we do have some vacancies, and we created a new one on the board. So I've actually spoken to a couple of people that may have some interest in putting in, but as you know, folks that are interested in this, please, you know, make sure that you encourage them to bring that into action a little bit. We meet once a month. We do it pretty diligently, and we try to make the most of the time in our meetings, and it would be great for other folks to see if they have people with interest in this type of stuff to step up and join the board. The next item is discussion and consideration of meeting dates for the Gene Stowe presentation. And this goes, Gene Stowe, I believe he may have spoken in front of some of the folks in council before. He's an author that wrote a book called Inherit Land that speaks to some of the history of Marvin, and specifically a court case that was done in regards to a black family that was given the inheritance of, I think it was almost 700 acres, right? Pretty much in the center of Marvin, which actually encompasses the current land that Marvin Eford Park is on. And I had a couple of email exchanges with Gene. He's raising some additional money for a documentary that he's doing, so he does take donations. But he thought it would be nice, and we thought it might be also good as part of our series in educating the public about the village's land and history, that at the we were originally looking to do it in the spring sometime, but COVID-19 kind of put the kibosh on that. But having him come out to Marvin Eford Park, publicizing it to the community, and giving folks an opportunity to learn a little bit more about how Marvin developed. So you know, I don't know if we would want to have a meeting with them beforehand to discuss that, or just really kind of looking at some dates that we might be able to put out to him, you know, to set something like this up, possibly in the late summer or fall, I'm thinking at this point.
John, I met with Gene Stowe a while back and stuff, and I invited a bunch of people. Unfortunately, our system of getting the word out didn't work that well. It was just my wife and I that met with them. But it's a very interesting story. I'm actually, with all the stuff going on today, currently, with the racial tension and stuff, I mean, there is an incredible story to tell here with what he wrote about, and I'm just I mean, it's tough because I'm getting all the names, but interestingly enough, when we talk about the downtown district, the place that where they rose the Black Child was right between these two churches, and it was a building that was built here. So there's so much heritage, which I think, and this is just the opinion of one, that there may be an opportunity, if we get enough groundswell of people coming to the town hall, that we take a few minutes and talk about what's going on in Marvin like that, and maybe give a little blurb where maybe that gets that energy behind him, because one of his frustrating points is he can't get, you know, he's had a hard time getting people to kind of tell the story, and I know the documentary is kind of in line. It'd be great, and especially now. I mean, this was over 100 years ago, almost to the day. I mean, we're 99 years. I think April was the court hearing, but a lot of history, heritage, and the fact that this was like the downtown hubbub 100 years ago, because that was the house that used to, it was a doctor, I think Dr. Rones was his name, that built the house. They had kids would feign sickness just to stay over the night to get the cooking and all the things. So it was kind of a hubbub, which we've identified as that. So I think there's a story to tell, not only from the council side where we give maybe a few minute blurb. You guys are at that same meeting that do the few minute blurb about what's going on with PRG. And then, give him that opportunity. And this is, again, just a suggestion to, if we do have a decent crowd, and maybe we promote it as a special guest, Gene Stowe talking about our heritage in town. And I think people will be amazed when they learn what history we have right here and what we were doing, or some were doing way ahead of the curve. It's just a thought as far as if we're looking at dates. We're asking our staff to figure out what would work. Having a special guest like that may be an extra draw to the community.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mayor, that as I was seeing this on the agenda and I was mentioning what I just did, I think it would be a heck of a draw. I'm personally excited to meet him in person. I would like to get his books, or get his book rather. And, I even heard it's a rumor. I know this is a public meeting, it's a rumor. And thank you, John, for saying it was a documentary. Because I had heard the rumor that Hollywood was coming into Marvin and actually filming the story. So I can perpetuate that rumor with Hollywood. And, but I don't want the public to get misled. But yeah, I heard he was doing some sort of filming or something was going to be going on here regarding that. Sounds like a fascinating story. But Mayor, to your point, I think that would be a heck of a draw. To say that you can learn about the history of Marvin, I think, a lot of people may be turned off by, the question and answer period of what's going on with the council. I'm too busy for that. But to add on top of it and say, add depth to it and put this, saying, hey, how would you like to really hear the story of how Marvin got started? I think you'd have a heck of a lot of people here.
Can I clarify on that rumor, Councilman Mark Leese? So they are making a documentary and the director is from Hollywood, but I wouldn't call the operation that Hollywood is coming to Marvin, if that makes sense.
So we can't spread the rumor, huh? Okay, all right. Just urban legend. All right.
So you are going to be billed as one of the, I think they were coming after you, Bob, as an lead actor for a sharecropper at the time of the cotton and stuff like that. If we're going to have rumors, why not start that one? Right?
So it seems that council would think this is a good idea as well. And when you're talking about the town hall meeting or something, is there a specific date that you folks have set for that?
We've directed staff basically to, number one, find the venue. We were thinking the high school auditorium possibly, and reaching out to them and seeing if we can secure a date in the evening after everybody's back from school, and hopefully the new norm is not so non-normal and we're back to school and people can, if it's far enough in advance, maybe a September, October timeframe. We talked about Eford Park as a backup, but then you got weather issues. And then it all depends on what kind of event, how many people respond. It'd be great to click on, if we send out an invite and have them click on, yes, I'm going to attend, so we get an idea. But I just think, you throw not only just what we're up to, but a special guest like that, and we have a meeting in a few hours here that's going to be talking about our development, if any, of our downtown district. And I want to encourage, picking this person's brain because he has so much history of our heritage and what it's about and what we're trying to accomplish here. So, but no firm dates yet.
Yeah, I'm assuming you folks would be okay though if I continue my conversation with him and perhaps set something up for him to do at the park as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
representing myself,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I mean,
And, Eric, we'll reach out to you specifically on that, you know, as far as, doing something there at the park.
so if you have dates in mind, John, then that's great, like an Eford Park thing, especially I know the summer gets a little bit hot, it cools down in the evenings. I don't know what you were thinking, but I'm thinking if we're gonna do something like at Eford Park and the temperatures hopefully would be, you know, we could maybe have a rain date included in that just in case, but I like that idea but then when we get to our meeting, I definitely would like to secure him for that. And I'm sure he would love to get that kind of audience if we do get an audience.
Sure thing. Anything else on Jean Stowe and then her at the land? All right, let's move on to item number 5, which is a marsh update. And before I turn it over to Bob, I just really want to give him kudos for the work that he and Jill and a number of other folks that are contributing to the Marsh Board have put in going around and getting people's commitment to be a part of the initiatives that we're doing along with the National Wildlife Foundation with Backyard Habitats. Also some of the educational series that he's done. Bob's really taken the ball and run with this since it first started. So Bob, this is your update to give. We really appreciate what you've been doing and bring us up to date on where things are.
Well, thank you, and if it's okay with everybody, because Jamie and Bob are new to the council, I thought it would be best to start at the beginning. Obviously, I sit on the Park, Rec and Greenway Committee with John and Christina. I also chair Marsh. And I think it'd be best for us to talk about who is Marsh, what do we do, what does the acronym stand for, and what value have we created to the community. So I think that'd be a good place to start. Back in the late summer of 2018, I went to the Park, Rec and Greenway Committee and recommended that we create an activity for Marvin that would engage and educate the Marvin community about wildlife. So we approached the National Wildlife Federation and we formed a chapter in the early January of 2019. And Joe Versay, a past member, came up with an acronym, MARSH. And MARSH stands for Marvin Area for the Restoration and Sustainability of Wildlife Habitat. So that's what it stands for. And our mission was, again, to educate and involve our community. And when we say engage, we want to talk about the engagement of schools, we want to talk about the engagement of churches, the community, neighborhoods, and individuals. So our goal we established early on was to become what is known as a certified wildlife habitat by the end of 2019. And we were able to accomplish that goal. And to put that into perspective, most chapters take better than 2 years to become certified. Because we had an exceptional team, and do have an exceptional team, we were able to accomplish that in 1 year. So we were very, very happy about that. And it's not that easy to become certified, but the most important thing I want to share with you today is what have we done, what do we intend to do to keep our community involved. Our first year out, we did 2 primary activities. One was the first annual garden tour. We only had 3 homes participate the first year. And we had over 40 participants come out. And we did that in the September of 2019, which is not an ideal time to have a garden tour, but it was extremely well received. And we had planned on 2020 to have 2 garden tours, one in early May of 2020, and then we were going to have a fall garden tour. We still hope to have the fall garden tour, but as everybody knows, the virus has changed everybody's lives, and much of what we had planned is been canceled. We started our speaker series in October of 2019. Our first speaker was Grover Barfield. We had and he talked about snakes, and we had a huge turnout at Beaufort Park. We had over 83 people attend, and it was a huge success for us in the community. Our second speaker we had in February, pardon me. We had a fellow come out, and he gave a presentation on the coyotes. And we also had an exceptional turnout with that. And unfortunately, we had several speaker series presentations canceled because of the virus. We had Dr. Larry Mellencamp, who's famous in this area. He's an author, a brilliant fellow, worked out at UNCC, and he was going to give a presentation on native plants. That's been postponed. We also have Carol Bowie Jackson, who owns the 2 bird stores in Charlotte, Wildology over at Waverly and the Birdhouse on the Parkway. And she's going to speak to us on birds. Christina, who is our head of the speaker series now, she's got us lined up. We're going to have a presenter on bats in October to tie into Halloween, which ought to be a lot of fun. But we're also involving the schools, and we have signed up, I think 4 of the 6 elementary schools are now certified wildlife habitats. And what that means is the school and the children in the school have created an environment for food, nesting, cover, and water for birds. And they put up bird baths, they put up bird boxes, and they have qualified to be a certified habitat. And to let everybody know, we had to achieve 150 certified properties become a community certified habitat. So for Marvin to become certified, we had to have at a minimum 150 families, community centers, or churches, or schools participate. We now have in excess of 160 points, and we accomplished that in approximately 1 year. So we have a lot of people participating, and we continue to hope we're going to grow on that and keep active and keep the schools active. And we have several schools pending. But anyway, I want to let you know the schools embrace this a lot. The community has embraced it. And I think we feel the need, and I appreciate the town council's support of what we do. That's really where we're at right now.
Hey Bob, this is Jamie. I commend you and the entire team on that. I know I haven't been able to personally attend those because it was always something that conflicted on my schedule. But I love the one on the coyote. I love the one on the snakes and all of that. But the feat of being able to be certified wildlife habitat and interacting with schools and the community with that is just phenomenal. And great job to you and the entire team on doing that as well, because that's just something a lot of people just don't think of. It just doesn't happen. And it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of passion to do that. And I'm excited. I support you 100%. And I look forward to doing bats in October. So keep it up and thank you again.
Well, can I make one comment as an aside? We had, I guess I'm promoting Marsh here, which is what I'm supposed to be. On Realtor.com, we had a house for sale, and anyway, they took a picture of our neighborhood sign, certified wildlife habitat community sign, and they posted it on Realtor.com. And of the 11 people that went into the house for sale, 2 of them commented that they really wanted to come by and see our neighborhood because they embraced what we were doing. So I would encourage all neighborhoods to get involved and become certified. It does make a difference.
And Bob, I agree with what Councilman Lyons said. I was unable to attend the snake and coyote presentation. I hope you can have repeat performances of that, but I plan to attend. I mean, it sounds like you've just done a fantastic job putting it into the community. So thank you.
And if I could add, John, when you did your first presentation for us, I think you had some people, including myself, immediately sign up, and I will tell you, the process is not that difficult to get your home. Bob, you're ready to go based on where you live, with what your house has and stuff, and it's fairly easy to go through the checklist. It's very simple. It's a checklist. Are you doing this? Do you have this? That kind of stuff to basically be an approved, I don't know what you call it. Wildlife habitat member.
The backyard habitat.
Yeah. So I encourage everyone who's either listening online or whatever that if you haven't done it, get the information, go through the checklist, and you basically comply. And I think it's a very reasonable amount as far as annual.
Oh, it's inexpensive to do, and Mayor, to your point, it's easy to do.
Yep, very easy to do.
And some of you probably are already qualified, and so we'd appreciate your support. Thank you again.
Yeah, and Bob, I'm assuming that we still have information on the village website that you can go to in order to register and so forth.
We're going to be part of the upcoming newsletter, and there's going to be a place on there that gives them a direction in terms of how to join. So there'll be a special section for that on the website.
And you also have a Facebook page as well.
We do. March for Wildlife.
Bob, it's Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Hi. In terms of like the neighborhoods, I know like a lot of neighborhoods will have their annual meetings like in the fall. Are you open to coming and presenting to the HOAs why it's important for the actual neighborhood and, you know, even individual homes? Like I got certified, it was super easy and it's tax deductible for anybody who's listening. But are you open to coming to like the HOA meetings and presenting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, would love to.
And then, as you're working on your speaker series, can we coordinate with you to make sure that there's like not other stuff going on in the village? Because I know a couple of times like there's been, granted they got canceled, but they were like scheduled when like planning board meetings were. And I know that, you know, I went to the coyote one and they were awesome. I'm super excited about the bats. But I know that I would think that other boards would like to be able to participate if available. So can we coordinate like just to make sure that we don't have like other stuff going on?
We will do that.
Awesome.
Our initial year, Kim, so everybody understands, the way we picked our dates, and this is important for y'all to know too, the second largest chapter in the United States for the National Wildlife Federation in Charlotte, North Carolina. They have an organization called CROWN. Matthews, North Carolina is also certified. They have an organization called HAWK. Concord's certified. So we're not a little island out here by ourselves. We're part of a large group of people. A lot of cities are embracing this and becoming part of a big network nationally. But when we first started our speaker series, we tried not to overlay CROWN or HAWK presentations. And the reason for that was they were extremely helpful to us in terms of advice and giving us, here's how we would go about it being, you know, if we had it to do over. So we got a lot of advice as we started this up, but absolutely, Kim, we will take into account the scheduling. We haven't laid out a lot of it, obviously, because we're not sure when we can have meetings yet. So yes, Kim, we'll get up with the appropriate people and do that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we don't use our term as buzzer.
Our term is what? Buzzer. Yeah.
All right, anything more on Marsh? Any other questions or anything? All right. Moving on to item number 6, discussion and consideration of event dates. And we can talk about a couple of events that we would normally be planning for already. We just spoke in our last meeting. National Night Out is normally one that we would have upcoming here in the summer. My understanding is that National Night Out nationally has been kind of pushed out until the October timeframe. I forget if it was October 3rd or 6th or something
October
like that.
6th.
John, if I might
Sure.
interrupt real quick, Deputy Eason is here at the meeting, and he can help us along in this particular subject.
Sure, yeah, Deputy, if you'd like to kind of give us an update, because I know you kind of worked into it last year, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it was originally in August every year, but National Night Out recommended it be moved to October because of the coronavirus. So I talked to the office and everybody up there said that was fine with them for October 6th. So
Yeah, is that what the rest of the county seems to be doing?
Yeah, I believe so.
In October?
yeah,
Okay.
as far as I know.
Is the country, because that's a national thing, is the whole country doing that?
Well, they're recommending it, but they're not forcing it to be in
Yeah.
October. That was their recommendation, so we just kind of went with what they said.
Yeah, and I think just with the planning that it takes, and you know, a lot of it falls on officers and the staff and everything. But at this time, probably we thought in our meeting that would be best to kind of move it out to October as well.
Yeah.
It'll be nicer weather. It'll be cooler anyway, so I think it's better to move it. It's always too hot in August. It's always 90 degrees at 6:30 in August.
Yeah, and that being said, you know, one of a lot of the preparations for that do fall on the officers and also some of our staff, and we volunteer as we can. But one important thing, a point I wanted to get across during this meeting as well, and I'm sure my fellow board members agree, is just to make note of the great job that Derek has been doing at the park. You know, it's been a challenging time for everybody, but we had the park closed for a while there. But you know, now we've got access back open to it, and you know, the improvements that are being made there at the park, all those type of things, with redoing some of the trails that we recently, you know, through the council allotted some money for, you know, some old dead trees that were becoming safety issues. I just wanted to make note that, you know, I personally feel, and I think the board agrees, that Derek has really been doing an outstanding job, and just want to make sure that we recognize that in front of council.
Thank you, John.
Derek, you know, I know we're talking about event dates and so forth, and right now that's the only event date that we have kind of on the board, with things on hold. But you know, you often give us a park manager's update at one of our regular meetings. Anything you want the board or the council to kind of know at this point?
It's not on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
That you can only do what's on the agenda.
Okay. That being said, you know, one of the things that we'd also like to entertain from council is ideas for other events. We have had some discussions, you know, the marsh things that they're doing, they may be held at the park, but they're not necessarily park events, because Marsh really is an organization to some degree unto their own. But you know, if we do move the National Night Out thing to the fall, you know, I think that'll be one good thing. We've had some discussions about how we might do our Christmas tree lighting and some of the things, you know, as we get into December. It seems like a long way out now, but when you think about it, there's only a couple of meetings between now and then. So if there's any input that council would like in terms of that one, that would be the next one that we start planning for after National Night Out. And we were entertaining some different ideas and formats to it versus the way we've been doing it just over the years. We incorporated some new things last year that really seemed to work. We had like a nice sculpture that kids could take their pictures and selfies with and things like that. But any ideas for either of those or other events and things like that that council would like to see us getting involved with and doing some planning for?
Is there a date? Do we have a date for your Christmas?
December 12th.
12/12.
We had discussed doing an annual date. It would be a specific weekend every year so that people would
First weekend
What was
in
it?
December.
Was it the second weekend of December that we discussed, John?
I believe so. You know, there's some other things that we've always tried to work around at that time, which is, you know, Waxhaw has their whole thing with the big parade and stuff like that. You know, and a lot of residents enjoy doing that as well. We were typically the weekend before they would go. And as school kind of starts up, you know, we'll be making decisions. You know, in the past, we've incorporated some of the local choruses, the band, some different things like that. You know, and the discussions we'll have over the next couple of meetings is the degree to which we do many of the things the same as we have in the past, or to also incorporate new ideas as well.
John, can I chime in?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of throw it out there for you guys to think about, and you can just let me know individually. But one of the things I think that will help us draw more families in is engaging the elementary kids. And the first idea that came to my mind was some sort of art that goes on display there. Maybe doing a large two-dimensional holiday tree where the kids, you know, participate in their art class in decorating that. And then they go home to their parents and say, look, hey, Mom and Dad, my art's going to be on display at the park this Saturday for the tree lighting event. So just trying to brainstorm ideas to draw in the younger elementary kids and their family. I think that should be our main target audience for this type of event.
And John, the only thing I would add as far as dates and stuff, if you guys are looking at times, I think the earlier the better as far as if you're going to do it an annual thing, the earlier, only because you start getting into holiday parties that corporations have, companies have, and you know, when you conflict with that, that sometimes affects the ability for, you know, people to show up. But that's a great idea, Derek, as far as getting the elementary schools to participate and be a project for them. But that's the only thing as far as dates and times go. One other thing as far as events, not on Christmas, but has anyone approached you about, I know John Jones and I have discussed this and doing something here, but it is, well, let me back up a minute. Are we down to now just one movie night? Or is it we still having one in the spring and one in the fall? Just one, okay. And that's usually when?
We normally do that right before the end of school, maybe in the May time frame, before it normally gets too hot, but the virus and stuff, we certainly didn't have the opportunity.
So basically that's probably off the calendar for this year, and we're looking at next May. We're not going to have a rescheduled date for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Should we move it to the fall?
Well, that's what I was thinking, Kim. If, you know, just again, gathering, but again, people aren't necessarily comfortable with gathering yet, you know, and schools haven't been figured out.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that we're going to move into whatever the next phase is here in a little bit. And as we do that, then maybe we can, you know, do it in the fall and maybe do like a movie night and a chili cook-off or something like that. I don't know.
Well, keep in mind that we've moved National Night Out to the fall as well, which is one of our biggest events. Between Christmas and National Night Out is the two largest events.
Yeah, and oftentimes in the past, we've done National Night Out in combination with a movie, but that would be when it was during the summer and kids didn't have school the next day, because National Night Out is normally on a Tuesday. Moving that to a weekday in the fall could complicate things with schools. What I would say is I do remember we did used to have the Marvin chili cook-offs. And these ideas for the fall are good things, but one of the things that we did run into in the past years ago is the fall is probably the most busy time for families. Sports events, whether it be football games on Friday nights, all the leagues, the middle schools, all through the day. It's a very difficult thing, you know, in terms of folks being able to be able to attend.
And the other thing I'd add as far as other things, you were talking about different events and stuff, and I know John Jones had approached me, and he's actually in talks with some of the elders in the church of having an event called Cool Cars of Marvin. Basically, you know, hosting it out in this area where the trees are and stuff. Ephraim Park's not a great place for something like that, only because it's a gravel area and a lot of people don't like to take their cars in car shows like that. I've been asked to host going forward the Marvin High School one that they do. It's more of a fundraiser for the band, but John was talking to me about that, and I think there's some interest going around with that. I don't know if you guys would be involved in that or not, but it just wanted to make you aware of it. If nothing else, we may be reaching out to you for that. Can't hear you.
We lost your audio, John.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
That's really it that we have here on the agenda. So unless we have other questions or things like that related to these items, we just thank you. Bob, Christina, anything you folks want to add?
No, just to thank the council for their time and support. We appreciate it.
Well, John, to your team, from me personally, thanks for all your hard work. I mean, you've shared a lot with us. We've been on for, let's just say, roughly an hour. You've shared a lot of information, but you've shared a lot of information that you guys have worked hard to put together. And the plan from Tim and his team that we got to see this past week was very well thought out and put together, structured, and we appreciate everyone's hard work. This has been a great experience for me personally to do this and to be a part of it. So thanks to you and the entire team for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I concur. I feel the same way. This was a good joint meeting. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, I just have to say thanks as well to all your team members and stuff, and my apologies for having to snatch one of your board members for council. So we'll work on getting replacements for you soon, but we appreciate the loaner.
And I concur. I love working with Park Rec and Greenway. And you guys are doing a great job. And I appreciate everything that you do and the time that you give to the community. So thank you all.
Well, PRNG board enjoyed working with y'all for all these many years. So keep up the good work, John. I know you're an old hat at this, so I know things will move smoothly forward.
All right. That being said, do I hear a motion on the table to adjourn the Village of Marvin Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Board meeting here in conjunction with the council?
I make a motion to adjourn the joint meeting between the Park Greenway Committee and Town Council, June 11th at 11:10 a.m.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Kim, do you want to make a motion to adjourn the village council part of that?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Village Council and Parks Rec and Greenway joint meeting on June 11th, 2020 at 11:11 a.m.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.